Thank you, Dion. Good afternoon. It's almost good evening. Thank you so much for staying with me and staying to hear this last chapter of what's been an incredibly heartwarming and heart-fulfilling afternoon. So I want to talk to you this afternoon about the brilliance of chaos. But before I do that and explain that, I'm going to give you a very quick run-through of my background and what it is that I do. So, hands up those of you who love the theatre or go to the theatre. Oh, awesome! Give yourselves a round of applause. Yay! I have friends in the house. Okay, so I am a professional theatre director. I also train actors in film and television. So my theatrical career, my creative career, spans 35 years. I was a child star, all right? I started very young. So over the course of 35 years, I have started as an actor, I moved into singing, choreography, and then into directing. My most recent production was Phantom of the Opera in Australia. Hands up those of you who've seen it. Yes? Awesome. Phantom of the Opera. I have directed Cats, the musical. Who's seen Cats, the musical? Yeah, not quite as popular. What about Les Miserables? Who's seen that? Yes. Sound of Music. Yes. West Side Story. Into the Woods. Oh my God, Arthur. Almost no one knows that show. So these are all shows that I've directed. And the most recent one, Phantom of the Opera, was probably the one that created the biggest challenge and is actually the subject of my talk today, and how I discovered brilliance in chaos. So to give you a bit of a perspective of what it means to be a theatre director. So I'm essentially the CEO of a company that comes together for somewhere between 6 to 8 months, works together to create this particular production, and at the end of it we disband, we say goodbye, and that's it. And I do that regularly. Most years I will direct a major production. So I'm the CEO of that particular company. I'm also the Chief Financial Officer. I have to control the budget. I'm also the Chief Operating Officer because I need to control and manage all of the resources. I'm the HR manager. I need to cast the people. I have to manage the orchestra or the orchestra leader. So I have a team, essentially my executive team who work with me, who can be anywhere between 6 and 10 or 12 people. I have a cast anywhere between 40 and 50 people. There is an orchestra, there's a backstage crew of around about a dozen. So all in all, I'm in charge of about 100 people for one production for somewhere between 6 to 8 months. We work for 6 to 8 months to pull this together. Then we move into the theatre. And what do you think happens? Chaos. Nothing ever goes the way you plan. Nothing. It's the world of live theatre. Nothing ever goes the way you expect it to. So, come with me as I take you to the theatre. So, I'm sitting in the auditorium. It's day one of what is meant to be a 3-day, what we call a bump-in. Now, a bump-in is where we bring everybody, all the sets, the costumes, we bring everything into the theatre and we start to put all of the technical aspects of the theatre together. Now, the cast have been working for 6 to 8 months, right? My technical crew have 72 hours and they have to work with the team from the venue. And in that 72 hours, they've got to pull together one of the most technically challenging shows that has ever been written. We're talking about candelabra coming out of the stage. We're talking about boats drifting on lakes. We're talking about a phantom. We're talking about an iconic musical. And with an iconic musical, there is an expectation. You must do it justice. You've got to present it in a way that people go, oh, I love this bit. I love the bit where they go gliding across the lake. Never mind that you have a budget that is maybe a tenth of the professional budget. Somehow you still have to get them to glide across a supposed lake. So you know what? Smoke and mirrors. That's how we do it, smoke and mirrors. So here I am, day one, expecting I will have a 3-day bump in. And I'm sitting in the theatre. Oh. And that's what I'm looking at. A bare stage. Now, what do you notice about that picture? Can you see very many people? Can you see any people? You can see one person. Yeah, that was it. Day one of a massive bump in, and I have one person. No one else. And you're probably rolling your eyes at me and going, oh my God, chaos. How do I do 72 hours of work with one person? The organisation, in their brilliance, had decided to give all of the crew the day off because they'd all worked over the weekend. And because they'd worked over the weekend, they weren't allowed to work on the Monday. So suddenly my 72 hours became 48. So I sat there in that seat looking at that stage all day on my own, thinking, you can imagine what I thought, I can't say it in public. So there I am, thinking, how do I do this? Now, I can make light of it now because I'm beyond it, right? When we all can, when we're in that chaotic situation, whether it's our workplace, whether it's our home, when we come out the other side, we can sometimes joke about it, and sometimes it takes just a little bit longer. And what I discovered in the 48 hours that I had left to me was that chaos illuminates. Chaos allows us to shine a light on what is up until that point hidden. That was the chandelier that should have been hung the day before. That chandelier weighed something like 600 kg. And it took a team of 10 people to hang it. So day 2 of my now 48-hour bump-in, I spent watching them hang the chandelier. Woo! Well, I needed the chandelier, so they did have to hang it, so I had to wait. So now my 72-hour bump-in is reduced to 24, but at least I have a chandelier. And it raises up at the beginning of the show, and it illuminates the audience, and it illuminates the wonderful production of Phantom of the Opera. So my first lesson was that chaos illuminates what is often hidden. And so I start to make friends with chaos. The second thing I discovered is that chaos creates. Because chaos is a building stone of creativity. Without chaos, creativity cannot happen. So I had to become really, really creative. I also had to become really, really angry. I had to call meetings with venue management because they made other decisions that didn't work for us and reduced my now 24 hours to barely 12. So then when I realised, when it illuminated what was going on, when I realised I had a choice, I could allow this iconic show to flop and not be what it needed to be, or I could find a way to create what I needed, which was time. And that's what I did. I got mad. I got angry. And I had a meeting with the venue management. And I spoke my mind. Because there are times when you have to be assertive. There are times when you have to speak your mind in order to be able to create what you need to create. And because of the way that organisation had treated us and their lack of communication, it created a massive impact on us. And I needed to let them know that that was not good enough. They didn't value what we were doing. They didn't value their team. And so therefore, their team were not engaged in the process of helping us. So do you see how it all flows on from one thing to another? So then I got creative and I worked out a way to get some time back. And I bargained and I got what I needed, which was the time. The other thing chaos creates is choice. We have the choice of how we look at this. I chose deliberately to be angry. It's not something I do a lot. Don't let the red hair fool you. Although I am a redhead. I was born a redhead. But I don't come to anger very quickly. I'm a slow burn. It takes a lot. But I got really angry. But I realised I had a choice of how I dealt with it. And that was my third lesson. Of how do I choose? When we are in chaos, it allows us to illuminate what is going on. It gives us the opportunity to create, and it gives us the opportunity to choose how we move forward. So my lessons for you, and it's a really simple acronym, chaos. Today, we have heard about many stories of individual chaos. We have heard many stories of individual vulnerability, heart-centered storytelling, authentic storytelling, being open about what is needed, being open about the choices that are available to us. So when I really thought about what had I learned from this experience, I realized that there is a brilliance in chaos if we're only willing to look for it. If we're willing to look for the clarity of vision, as Arthur mentioned, and many of you have mentioned. If we have a clear vision, this is my purpose. I have an iconic show. There is an expectation from my audience. I must give them what they deserve. And my cast, who had worked so hard. So I understood with great clarity what my purpose was. I then really connected into my heart and said, what is required here that I and only I can do? How can I bring love to this situation, which actually I had the choice to be very angry, but then I got over that. I said, how can I bring my heart to this to make this a truly exceptional and iconic production? Authenticity. How can we tap into who we truly are and allow ourselves to shine and to really be brilliant at what it is that we do? How can you do that for yourself? Openness. I had to go to this organisation and say, what you are doing is not good enough. Your staff do not work well because this organisation is toxic. It was calling it like it was. and being willing to have an open discussion. And the final point is stillness. When we take a moment to be still, our spirit is revealed. When we take a moment to allow what needs to arise, our spirit is revealed. It is time for us to recode our organisational spirit and look at the brilliance of chaos. I have a model that I'm working with now with organisations where I help them through the concept of chaos shift from being invisible to iconic through the lens of what I've learned in 35 years of theatre. If you want to be iconic, if you want to be brilliant at what you do, I encourage you to look for the clarity, to bring your heart to everything you do, to be open, to be humble, to be authentic, and take a moment to be still, and allow your spirit to be revealed. My name is Simone de Haas. My business is the Speakers Director. Thank you.